The North African campaign of the Second World War is much more important than people give it credit for. Italy's doomed attempt to rebuild the Roman Empire seeped German resources for the duration of the war, and when they finally lost, Hitler had to increasingly send more and more resources to Italy to slow down the Allied advance. In this way, the Libyan front helped to bring down the entire Third Reich. But before Italy could fail to invade Egypt, they had to consolidate their control over Libya. This is where the Senussi come in. They are an Islamic religious and political order in Libya, founded in 1837 in Saudi Arabia by the first Grand Senussi. Fun fact, the first Grand Senussi, that would be Muhammad ibn al-Senussi, joined multiple other religious orders in his youth to sort of learn from them and then combine all the good parts of each of them when he finally founded his own order. The Senussi order first moved its headquarters to Libya, and by 1902 they had 146 lodges to worship at, with the main one being in Libya, but they also had locations in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And you best believe that when Italy showed up to Libya to colonise the place, they were not going to change their headquarters again. The Senussis fought back, and Italy spent 21 years attempting to subdue the Senussis, during which time they committed the atrocious Libyan genocide and displaced up to 100,000 people. During the war, a quarter of the population of Cyrenaica, Libya's biggest province, were killed. Yet, despite the fact that the outcome of this war literally allowed the entire North African and Italian campaign of the Second World War to happen, and the fact that thousands of people were killed and displaced in this genocide, not many people talk about the Senussi order or their war with Italy that often. So, in this video we're going to talk about the Italo-Sanusi War, and learn about the often overlooked story about how Italy conquered Libya. Right, I'm at the end of my script now, so I can start talking off the cuff. Yay! In the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire controlled Libya, but the Senussi order was also based there, and they had a lot of power and independence. So, when in 1911 Italy showed up ready to take over the country, the Senussis and the Ottomans teamed up to defeat this invader. They fought hard, but unfortunately, Britain refused to let the Ottoman Empire reinforce their position via Egypt, and so in 1912, the Ottomans had to throw in the towel and withdraw their troops. But just because the Ottoman Empire were going to withdraw, that doesn't mean the Senussis had to. So the Senussis kept fighting, because they weren't going to give up. They were going to keep fighting these invaders and protect their homeland. And better yet, in 1915, they got a chance to rebuild their alliance with the Ottoman Empire. This was because the Ottoman Empire was at war with Britain and Italy, and the Senussis were also at war with Italy. So they approached the Senussis and asked them for help against Britain. They agreed to a joint attack to knock the British Empire out of Egypt in a pincer movement. If the Ottoman Empire succeeded in taking Egypt, they would have gained control of a wealthy nation and one of the most important supply lines in the world. Unfortunately for them, that wasn't going to happen. The Senussis and the Ottomans both had a lot of initial success against the British, but eventually they were both thrown back across the border. However, they did have a lot more success against the Italians, throwing the Italians back to the coast and reducing their holdings in Libya to a few key positions near the sea. The Senussis had now been defeated by the British and defeated Italy, so in 1917 they signed peace with both. Of course, neither side was ever going to give up until either Italy had been defeated, thrown back across the sea, pushed out of Africa, or the Senussis were subdued and defeated, and so inevitably, war was going to restart. In 1919, Italy offered a compromise. If Libya accepted Italian domination, they would give people the option to have joint Libyan-Italian citizenship, and the provinces of Libya would be allowed to have their own autonomous governments. And the Senussi accepted that deal, and so, in agreement with Italy, Idris, the Grand Senussi, was made Emir of Cyrenaica, the largest province in Libya. However, one of the terms of that agreement was that the Senussis would have to dissolve their military. The Senussi seemingly forgot about that last term, and by 1921, Italian-Senussi relations had deteriorated once again. Incidentally, in 1922, the leader of the Republic of Tripolitania died. The Republic collapsed into tribal infighting, and in 1922, 2 years later, Idris was offered leadership over the entire province. This was big, because there were 3 provinces in Libya. Idris was Emir of Cyrenaica, and from what I can tell, he also controlled Fezzan. So, if he also becomes leader of Tripolitania, then he's functionally the ruler of Libya. In November of 1922, Idris accepted leadership of Tripolitania, and the local Italian military governor was absolutely furious. So he immediately launched a military campaign to take over the province of Tripolitania. Now you might be thinking, what a horrific breach of international law. You'd think they were trying to rebuild the Roman Empire. Like, just wait until the Italian government finds out about this. They'll shut down this completely unauthorized attack. They'll shut it down, just you wait. What's this? What have I found right here? Oh my god, oh! Not even a month ago had a certain somebody become the ruler of Italy. And when he found out that his governor in Libya was launching an attack on the natives, oh my god, he must have been overjoyed. He lent his full support to the attack, and within 5 months, they'd taken control of the desert between Benghazi and Tripoli. The Grand Senussi fled to Egypt, leaving his family members to deal with this problem. Meanwhile, a man named Omar al-Mukhtar took control of the Senussi military and began holding out in the stronghold of Jebel Akhdor. This was the mountain range in Cyrenaica, around which all of the fighting in this war would take place. Because by the end of 1924, most of Fezzan and Tripolitania were under Italian control, and in fact, the eastern part of the Jebel Akhdar mountain range was under their control as well. Fighting continued until, in 1927, Omar al-Mukhtar saw 2 of the tribes that had supported him the most suffer extremely heavy losses. At this point, he realised that he wasn't going to win, and so he sued for peace. Negotiations took place over the next 2 years, until in early 1929, they finally agreed on a 2-month truce. Over the next 2 months, both sides were supposed to agree to the specifics under which the Senussis would capitulate to Italian domination. However, they couldn't agree on any of the specifics, and so the truce was extended to 5 months. But even then they couldn't agree on anything, and so, in late 1929, fighting started again! And one of the most important military leaders Omar al-Mukhtar had switched sides. Oh no, that betrayal probably hurt a lot. However, they got some very cathartic revenge. On the 8th of January 1930, they fought a battle against the general that defected, and they absolutely obliterated him. He was trying to remain independent from Italy, generally, but the sheer losses he took forced him to completely submit to Italian domination. The Italians built a series of barbed wire fences running along the Egyptian border to cut off the Libyan Senussis from support. The situation deteriorated for the Senussis until 1931, when Omar al-Mukhtar was caught by the Italians and hanged. After that, the remaining resistance fizzled out.